Hi, my name is Chris Adams. I work for a community college in Utah called Snow College as a programmer for the financial aid department. So for my project, I decided to create a dynamic checklist so students would be able to see the financial aid progress. See what they needed to still do, see what was going on, see what we needed, the financial aid department. And really we did this because we were trying to eliminate or reduce some wait times. We were trying to let kids serve themselves a little bit more. So we wanted to create this checklist. What you see before you is Banner. Banner is an LMS/SIS, learning management system or student information system to let kids kind of take care of themselves and manage their admissions, their registration. Georgia Tech also uses this same program, although I don't think they use the entire financial aid module. They kind of mix and match a little bit. Since this is where kids are going to be, this is where we wanted to create the page. Banner is written in PL/SQL. There are SQL packages and functions and procedures that are run in the background to create these web pages. So that's what we want to do. After getting approval to do this as my project, I went ahead and started looking at what I'd need to do to create this financial aid checklist. And I thought I'd just show you what I've got so far. The first thing I had to do was get access to a test database, and luckily my DBA was kind enough to be able to do that and give me a user that had permissions to be able to run the APIs that Banner provides to be able to create custom pages. I also got access to a test user. This is Buster Badger. He's our mascot here at Snow College. We loaded him into this test database so we could be able to try out this checklist and things like that. We also gave him a FAFSA so that he could go through the entire financial aid process. For those of you who don't know, the FAFSA is the federal application to start the financial aid process here in the States. After we got all that taken care of, I also needed to work with my DBA to get permission to run the APIs. They are, as I mentioned, they're PL/SQL based, and they're somewhat cumbersome. There we go. This is just a couple of examples of actually what you need to do. Obviously, these are just function calls, but that first one in the list here, that popendoc right here, this is how you open a page. This is how you create a brand new page in a brand new website, brand new web page. This is how you create a paragraph on a website. This is how you create a table on a website. This is how you create a table row on a website. This is how you create a data element inside a table row. There's one of these function calls for pretty much everything you can think of. There's one for to add an image. There's one for to create lists. There's list items. Just anything you can think of, anything that has an HTML link, an href type thing. There's another one of these little functions, and each one of them has a bunch of parameters. I didn't go ahead and list the parameters, but this is the specific way that Banner wants to put them in there, so it can actually just work exactly the same way, and it can flow from one page to the other. And it, to be honest, it would be faster just to write it in HTML. But these lovely APIs are there, and we wanted to make sure it was in Banner because that's where the kids will be accessing it from. So that's what we decided to do. So I got permission to run these, or get permissions to be able to execute these APIs and be able to write these APIs from my DBA. And then we started on it. We wanted to create a dynamic checklist. We wanted to kind of have an idea, a landing page that could show students exactly where they were. So we went to work and we created this wireframe. This is kind of what we wanted to look like. The very top section is kind of the Banner logo in general, every day what's on the top of every page type thing. And underneath this, underneath that little legend there where it says, underneath right here, this is the little legend that kind of tells you what each icon means. Here's the financial aid checklist we came up with. Would have requirement categories with requirements that would actually be able to tell you if you have not completed it, if you completed it, if there were certain requirements that didn't apply to you, and if there was a problem with the requirement or status or eligibility or things like that. There would be links and documents here that would kind of links to documents or forms or web pages or help text or things like that, whatever would help the students be able to help with this particular requirement. So that's the basic idea of the project. So after we did that, with my first task was my next task was to create a basic page with using those APIs. It took me a minute to actually figure out exactly which APIs I needed, but I was able to actually get the basic page created. I was able to add a layout once this wireframe was approved by the financial aid department. I was able to add the basic layout, and that's what I'll show you now. Let's see. Oh, I had this up. Just 1 second. There we go. Here's where I'm at so far. We've got a lovely little logo. Here's what I was talking about. This is what's on the top of every page. Here's our categories. These are, at the moment, are just kind of hard-coded in. They will be kind of set up and worded with what the financial aid department wants, but I wanted to get them in here so we could actually see what they'd look like. Here's some of the links to things like this. For instance, for this application, this is actually what links you to the FAFSA website to be able to go and just start to fill out your application. All of these requirements down here are every requirement that we wanted to show. Buster Badger doesn't necessarily have to do all these requirements, but we want to list them to make sure they're looking okay and things like that. Our next task is to only list the requirements that Buster Badger or the student would actually need to do, and then be able to change this icon depending on if he needed to, if he had it completed, if there was a problem, if they didn't need to complete it, if he was all done. Just a bunch of these things. So that's pretty much where we are. What's coming up next is we need to add the categories. We need to be able to adjust these requirements a little bit. We need to add the links over here to be able to tell get help from these pages, some information text, some pop-up text, some things like that. But we're moving right along. I'm on schedule for my project according to my project proposal, and things are looking good. So I hope you are liking my project. If not, if you want to give critiques or anything like that, something that you think might also be good to add to it, that would be fantastic. Thanks for your attention.